Video games, movies, both things that exist. They're also quite different, but also quite the same. Let's talk about how much this intro hasn't made any sense. I've been thinking lately about the differences between video games and movies. Obviously, one has you as an active participant, the other one as a passive. Just in case you're one of the developers of Spyro the Dragon, what that means is active means you get to participate in the thing, and passive means that you watch it. Seriously, switch between the active and passive cameras in the Spyro games. Nothing fucking changes. But I was thinking about story and how much story plays into both of these forms of entertainment these days. For the longest time, the story hasn't been as big of a deal in video games as it has become recently. A game that started me thinking about this was Red Dead Redemption 2. When I come to a video game, I look for fun. Where is the fun? I hope that I can jump into this game and just have a blast. I just want to have a smile on my face the whole time. That's what I'm looking for when I play a video game. Red Dead Redemption 2, the Lenny mission was funny. I enjoy randomly just killing strangers. That's fun. But that's fun that I've made for myself. Not fun that the game has given me. And the Lenny mission, while being funny, wasn't particularly fun to play. I mean, you're just walking around, pressing a button, shouting Lenny. That's the whole gameplay of that mission. But I can see that it's a well-made game. Like it is very well made, and it gives you so much to do. It's just not particularly fun. Movies, on the other hand, they don't generally have to be fun. It's cool to watch a big blockbuster every now and then, but sometimes you want to just watch a small, intimate indie film. Maybe it's funny, maybe it's dramatic, but it doesn't have to be humorous or fun. I mean, you can look at horror movies, right? Take horror movies, for example. They can be fun horror movies, and there can be not fun horror movies. It's the difference between Evil Dead and Hereditary, or Bad Taste and The Shining. But when you come to, say, horror video games, whether it's something you have no control over, like things jumping out at you, or just how the gameplay feels to you, generally, horror games, there's no two sections of horror games. They're fun. Now, I'm going to bring up The Last of Us, which is another game that isn't especially fun. And while there are zombies in it, I wouldn't really call it a horror game. From a gameplay perspective, The Last of Us isn't too enjoyable. The reason I made it through that game was for the story. And the story isn't fun either. It's a very serious story. There's a couple of lighthearted moments, but for the most part, it's very serious, and it takes itself seriously. Serious. And a game like The Last of Us wouldn't have been made in the, let's say, PS2 generation. Something that relies more on the story than the gameplay, even though you do a lot more gameplay than you do watching stories. But the most rewarding part of The Last of Us is the story. It's not the gameplay. The gameplay is decidedly average. And when I think about games versus movies, the line is becoming blurred when it comes to story. But on the game side, the gameplay becomes secondary, and therefore, why make it a game in the first place? I'm sure Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Last of Us would make really good movies. Serious movies. You could go and afterwards you could pick it apart and deconstruct it and figure out all the secret meanings or whatever. But as games, they're just not appealing to me. I would like to know what happens to Arthur Morgan. Okay, I already know what happens to Arthur Morgan because someone fucking spoiled it on the day of launch. But fucking, let's not talk about that. But I would like to see the progression of the story in Red Dead. It's the fact that I have to sit through fucking who knows how many hours of Gameplay I don't care about, honestly, just to get there. Luckily, The Last of Us was 10 hours, something like that. Easy to get through. It played similar to an Uncharted game, except more stealthy. But if it wasn't for the story in that game and the shortness of it, I probably wouldn't have finished it. But that first game did make me excited for a second game. So I am looking forward to The Last of Us 2 because I care about those characters. Again, I mean, if it plays the exact same, I don't know if I'm going to have fun with it. Probably not, because it's The Last of Us and it's not particularly fun. Look at something like God of War, right? Okay, the God of War reboot this year, right? The story's great. It takes itself seriously. It's not like, you know, ha 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 ha, fucking let's have a ton of fun. It's not like that, but it still tells a compelling story that you want to keep playing because of the really good gameplay. The gameplay in God of War is a lot of fun. The combat's great. The characters are great. The story's been great. I haven't finished it, but I want to keep going back to that game. I want to finish it because of the whole package, not just because of the story. That's something that movies can get away with because they don't have gameplay. They get to concentrate on just story. Let's make a compelling story that people want to sit and watch from beginning to end. Games are more complicated because of the gameplay. So when you concentrate too much on the story and not enough on the gameplay, that's when they stop being fun. And that's why I come to video games. What are your thoughts on games versus movies and games concentrating too much on story and not enough on gameplay? Let us know in the comments below, and I will see you again next week.